Says Michael Popok, the interesting thing is not that Twitter was forced by court order and search warrant to turn over all of its data about Donald Trump's Twitter account and its operation. What's really impactful to the criminal case is how that's going to be used and what Twitter did to obstruct justice, and that's the reason they were found in contempt. Let me unpack it all on this hot take. Let's start with the basic facts we learned just recently, because everything related to grand jury and discovery in criminal cases is generally covered with secrecy. But we learned quite recently that in January and February, Jack Smith's team was fighting with Twitter and their counsel to get into their possession, not just tweets. Everybody's got the tweets that Donald Trump set, but all the inside information, all the good stuff, the tweets that were never sent, the drafts, the direct messages, the DMs, the fleeting tweets, the ones that were around for a short amount of time like Snapchat, but then disappeared. Who was in control of the account? How many devices were used on the account? How did he log in? Particularly, what was he searching for on Twitter from that account? Because that's how you do searches during relevant time periods in the timeline through the Jan 6th insurrection and beyond. In other words, when Donald Trump, in dereliction of duty for more than 4 hours, was doing nothing as the Capitol was being attacked, what search terms was he using? Was he on Twitter? Was he trying to see what was going on and how people were reporting it and how he was being treated in Twitter instead of doing his job? These will all go, all of that data, and who actually uses the account. Is it Donald Trump himself? Or is there a sign-on from other devices? And what are those devices? Why is that important? Because in the painstaking fashion that Jack Smith and his team is using to piece together all elements of the crime for which the prosecution has the burden to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, including that all-important element of mens rea, criminal mind, criminal intent, what we call willfulness. In order to show willfulness, you pull up things like Twitter accounts, and more importantly, not just things that were in the public record, things we never saw. Drafts. What was Trump going to send and when and why and to whom? What was the messaging? How did the messaging change for Donald Trump? This all is the way that prosecutors get inside the mind of a criminal defendant and present that to a jury so that they understand. Sometimes it's not the tweet that was sent, it's the tweet that was never sent. It's the search that was done for other people's tweets and reporting at key and critical moments on a timeline presented to a jury that's impactful, right? And that's what they're trying to get at. And that's why they fought so hard, tooth and nail, hammer and tongue, to get from Twitter a reluctant Twitter, an obstructionist Twitter. We'll talk about that in a minute, and what a federal judge found and did about that when she learned of it. But we know why, and I want to explain it to you here as a practicing trial lawyer, why social media accounts are so important and why they have whole departments, these social media companies, to respond to subpoenas and search warrants, or they should. Because it's not just the content of what we all have seen already, all the mean tweets, some of which have ended up in indictments or in court orders themselves. How many times have we seen time and time again from federal judges and state judges reciting tweets by Donald Trump, hanging him on his own words? We just saw it in the new indictment in Georgia by Fonnie Willis and the Fulton County District Attorney. There's at least 13 examples where his social media, his tweets, that's what he was tweeting at the time, are posted and used as overt acts in furtherance of a conspiracy, a criminal conspiracy. So tweets, social media, especially for Donald Trump, really, really important. But vanishing tweets, tweets that nobody got to see for that short amount of time, drafts, changes in drafts, which are all apparently stored by Twitter. Attention, social media users. You know, you're not off the grid. Social media companies can track all of these things. And deleted tweets. Why? When? This all goes to mens rea. This all goes to keystrokes done by the person who's the criminal defendant that he'll have to answer to in a court of law as the government presents its case. Now, you understand why it's so important, especially who controls the account. Because if Donald Trump, it's always been rumored that Donald Trump isn't the only one who has access to his account. In other words, some of his aides are doing the tweeting for him. I mean, otherwise he's completely derelict in his duty because, somebody was tweeting from @RealDonaldTrump, 24/7 instead of doing his job, which we paid him to do and sent him to the White House to do, which is to be the president. So if you're going to connect Donald Trump to certain tweets and make that a factor in criminal conduct, it's good for the government to be able to establish that nobody else was impersonating Donald Trump and had that account under his control. And if they're impersonating Donald Trump, maybe they're an unindicted co-conspirator because Donald Trump directed them to do it, or with his consent posted these tweets. Either way, Donald Trump is going to be the tail is going to be pinned on Donald Trump for anything that emanated from that account. But of course, as methodical prosecutors, they want to eliminate Jack Smith's team, any argument that someone other than Donald Trump did it. Also, linked accounts are important. What other accounts did Donald Trump have that he was using or linked through for real Donald Trump? We know about real Donald Trump, but maybe he had 4 or 5 phony accounts, shadow accounts, right? Second accounts that he was using to sort of, promote on the algorithm his own tweets. And what was he looking at and when? When he was sitting in the dining room watching Jan 6th burn, watching the Capitol burn, what was he doing? Wasn't just sitting there. We know he's always got the phone in his hand. So the government wants to know what he's doing because they're going to put that up on a timeline and blow it up large for a jury in the electronic presentation of evidence. That's the what. Now let's talk about the how. The government went apparently to the chief judge of the circuit court at the time, Beryl Howell, to obtain a search warrant. They do that on probable cause, that a crime has been committed and that evidence of that crime will be located, in this case, in Twitter's headquarters on its servers. With those affidavits and that testimony, the chief judge, who's responsible for all the grand juries in Washington, including the one that was investigating Jan 6 for Jack Smith, approves the search warrant. The search warrant, unlike the one that we've seen on television or at Mar-a-Lago, where somebody knocks on the door, FBI, and they execute the search warrant, there's another softer way to execute the search warrant, and that is by giving the other side, the third party, notice, serve it with them, but also along with it, in special cases like this one, give them a non-disclosure order from the judge, which is exactly what it sounds like. Don't tell anybody by the fact that we gave you the search warrant. Don't tell the account holder, Donald Trump. And the grounds for that are listed in the application to the federal judge. If Donald Trump knows in advance, there's a chance he'll destroy evidence. If he knows in advance, there's a chance that he'll obstruct justice. There's a chance that he'll try to interfere with the investigation and interfere with witness testimony. And a last one, he's a potential flight risk. And all that in one big package got presented to the judge and she approved the non-disclosure order. Now, Twitter is served not only with a search warrant, but they're served with a gag order. Don't say a word to anybody. And if they can't live by that, then they'll get the FBI, with a door opener coming through the front door and grabbing the servers. But we'll give you the benefit of the doubt for now, but they had every right to be doubtful of Twitter's conduct and behavior because right about this time is when Elon Musk bought Twitter and was trying to curry favor, obviously, with Donald Trump, re-platform him, put him back on the platform, welcome him back with open arms. This is around the time that the search warrant is being issued. And then days, weeks go by, and there's no search warrant compliance. So the government runs back to the federal judge and says, we got a problem, contempt. They're in contempt of your search warrant because they missed all their deadlines. And we don't like the level of cooperation or lack of cooperation that we're getting with the other side, Judge. Let's have a hearing. And the judge says, I agree, and called in a hearing. And now we have that transcript of the hearing. Just came out yesterday, unsealed, 300 pages. And we know what happened. What happened is a very upset and annoyed Chief Judge Beryl Howell lashed into and laid into the lawyers for Twitter. And every time they gave some sort of cookie cutter cookbook response, the judge just got more angry. At one point, when the male lawyer for Twitter didn't seem to know the answers quickly enough to respond to the judge about the status of discovery and production and kept turning to a female attorney in the room. I mean, it's a classic mansplaining, right? The judge interrupted and said, why isn't she up here talking to me? She seems to have all the answers. I mean, I got to tell you, I've been on the receiving end sometimes of a judge being annoyed with a case. It's not a fun place to be, and you want to get out of there as quickly as possible. It's like, a Snickers moment. And they were having a Snickers moment for Twitter because they were fighting back and saying, we have a First Amendment right to tell basically Donald Trump about the search warrant. And the judge wasn't having any of it because she already determined that he was not going to get that in advance. It looks like, however, they tipped off Donald Trump, despite the fact that the former president keeps telling people now that this was a search warrant he had no knowledge of. It looks like he did at or around the time. Judge Beryl Howell, was not happy about that and found them in contempt and fined them $350,000 and running until they complied. Told them how to comply and how to give that last gasp of evidence over to the government as quickly as possible. But she also commented, not once, but twice at two separate hearings, that she has a reasonable belief that the reason, right, the rationale, what's motivating Twitter dragging their feet and obstructing producing documents in response to a federal court order, her suspicion, and she said it out loud, is that Elon Musk was trying to curry favor and pucker up to the backside of Donald Trump because he was trying to get him back on the platform, right? Because he wanted all those people back. And she pointed out a number of times, well, when foreign powers, and other people say things on the platform, you have no problem deplatforming them. You have no problem complying with other subpoenas and search warrants. Why not the one for Donald Trump? Why is that different? Is it because you're trying to cozy up to him and curry favor with him? Is that what Mr. Musk is doing since his acquisition? Federal judge said that. Now, this is the same federal judge, just to kind of square the circle here, who already determined in another matter involving Mar-a-Lago and Trump's lawyer, Evan Corcoran, that it was more likely than not that Donald Trump and Evan Corcoran participated in a crime or fraud related to the Mar-a-Lago documents. Same judge, Judge Beryl Howell. And based on that, she stripped Donald Trump of his attorney-client privilege and forced Evan Corcoran to not only testify naked without any privilege about Mar-a-Lago events, which led to the indictment of Donald Trump, but also forced him to turn over his attorney file and all of his notes and recordings. He had a recording where he was musing about conversations he had with Donald Trump. He's going to be a lead witness because of Judge Beryl Howell. She has a vast experience in all things Jan 6th. She's presided over 24 or more Jan 6th insurrectionist cases and sentencings, and she's the judge that oversees the civil case involving Rudy Giuliani, who's about to go down in flames, being sued by two Fulton County, Georgia election workers for defamation, which they're going to win against Rudy Giuliani, Shay Moss and Ruby Freeman. And she's presiding over that and has already issued scathing orders against Rudy Giuliani and about Jan 6th, and by implication, Donald Trump's role in it. So what am I trying to say? Federal judges don't play, and Beryl Howell specifically is not playing when it relates to Donald Trump and the criminal investigation and now prosecution of him for the attempted overthrow of our democracy. That's Twitter in a nutshell. You make your own decisions based on the facts that I just gave you and my analysis as being a 32-year practicing trial lawyer in cases and in courtrooms, just like this one. I do my work right here on the MeidasTouch Network on YouTube. You can catch me on hot takes just like this one. You like hot takes? You're going to love our podcast. It's on Wednesdays and Saturdays at the intersection of U.S. law and politics. We do it just like I did now, but we do it over 5 or 6 major topics that are in real time, cutting edge. I do it with Karen Freeman Agnifilo, Ben Meisalis on Wednesdays and Saturdays. It's called Legal AF, and you can pick it up wherever you get your podcasts from. And you can watch us live on YouTube Wednesdays and Saturday nights on the MeidasTouch Network. It's all free to subscribe. You can catch me, Michael Popok, on all things social media, including now Threads at MS Popok. And I'll see you on the next hot take. This is Michael Popok, Legal AF reporting.
Hey, Meidas Mighty. Love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram at MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.